Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching India Tonight with me, Sumita Karir, and my colleague Shibani Garg. She's joining us from our Mumbai studios. Shibani, tonight the big focus is on the India Economic Conclave and what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said at the India Economic Conclave here in the national capital. She warned that global trade is increasingly being weaponized through tariffs and other measures, making it neither free or fair. She also emphasized that India uses tariffs only to protect domestic industries and not really as a weapon. So another sort of clarification or India's stance really coming through from the finance minister this time.
Absolutely, Sumita. And the finance minister stressed the need for careful negotiations amidst rising geoeconomics and also highlighted that MSMEs as a key priority for the Modi government and praised India's resilient growth as the world's fastest growing major economy despite global uncertainties. But as you rightly mentioned, is this weaponization of tariffs is the key question that we are also discussing which was addressed at the conclave. Right. Now, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also said that India has safeguarded its own industries, but the intention was never to weaponize the tariffs. Quickly listen in to what she had to say during the conclave.
Today, weaponization goes without criticism. There are, whispers in the corridor. Oh, no, that's not right. You shouldn't be doing it. And suddenly we have newer people coming up saying, we'll come up with tariff barriers. And there's no questioning. So that seems to be the new normal. Trade is getting weaponized through tariff, through many other measures, and India will have to negotiate its way carefully in this and not just take care of trade, but I think overall our economy's strength is what is going to give us that additional advantage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the finance minister in no uncertain terms stating that India never meant to sort of impose tariffs on other countries. And of course, this is being weaponized. Tariffs are being weaponized and India is only responding. She was also speaking about the robustness of the Indian economy, the domestic dividend that we have, and of course, the policy push that's being given by the Indian government over the past couple of years. And in fact, to speak about the Indian economy and of course, how resilient is the Indian economy looking forward into 2026. I'm now joined in by Professor Prabhat Ranjan. He's a nuclear fusion scientist. Also joining us is Raymond Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Trade Department. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery and Mr. Prabhat Ranjan. Let me come to you, Mr. Vickery. Mr. Vickery, you did hear what the Finance Minister of India stated about. She spoke about resilience of the Indian economy. But can India truly maintain its resilience given that 2026 is unlikely to be different from 2025? Only that governments and countries might become smarter in handling the crises that are emanating from geopolitical and geoeconomic conflicts?
Well, thanks very much for having me and allow me to comment on this. Peace and prosperity are indivisible, and you have to be able to build those together. They've always been joined together. The question is whether they're joined together positively for growth and prosperity and peace, or negatively to tear apart the system which has been in effect since really World War II. Unfortunately, the United States has stepped back from its role as a leader of free economies, as a leader in terms of building prosperity based on a multilateral system. Instead, under the Trump administration, we've had the announcement of an Independence Day, which is really harking back to a time when people thought that they could build Fortress America or Fortress India and not be involved in international trade. This simply is not the way forward. It's a very regrettable development, but it's time for great democracies like India to step forward and help fill the void which has been created by the Trump administration and others, rather than just sitting back and saying, well, how can we negotiate the present situation? What we've done is fallen into the trap of a transactional rather than a relational approach. We've had the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the World Trade Organization, which has largely kept the peace and prosperity for some 80 years. And now, under pressure, we're moving toward a transactional approach. That is not the way forward. It's not the way to build prosperity for India or for the world. And it's time for India to provide leadership on the multilateral basis, which it has traditionally been a leader in.
Absolutely, you said it. You put this across very well, Mr. Raymond Vickery. But how can India navigate without triggering a retaliatory sledgehammering response from partners like US in this matter, especially the comment where she speaks about weaponization of tariffs, which is clearly moved from revenue and regulatory tools to strategic weapons during this, during this deal?
Well, India thus far is doing a good job. It has not bent the knee and succumbed as other economies have. So the way forward is for India is to continue the course. And it is also the way forward for it to show leadership with a World Trade Organization to try to revitalize that and get us back on the multilateral path, which has been so spectacularly successful in lifting millions and millions of people out of poverty in the last 80 years. It is not the way forward for India to think, oh, how can I get the best deal to protect my industries? India has moved away over the last 30 years from the building economy in one country to a more open approach. It has a long way to go, as does the rest of the world. So what needs to happen now is not to just look inward, but to see how we can take advantage of the situation. India can build new relationships with Europe, with other countries in Latin America. And I think that that's the way forward, but not to say we're just going to look inward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Vickery, you've made a very, very relevant and very valid point. In fact, I was about to ask you that about, India should not be inward looking, but also look at integrating itself with the rest of the world, which it is doing, and which is why we have diversified our exports. In fact, tomorrow itself, the Prime Minister, who's in Oman, is going to sign a very, very crucial FTA with the country, and we have been pursuing those kind of arrangements with other countries as well. But let me come to you, Professor Prabhat Ranjan, and thank you very much for patiently waiting for your turn. And let me ask you about the Shanti Bill, given the fact that we're talking on a day when it got approved by the Lok Sabha. It caps liability at 3,000 crores. Will there be concrete interest in India's energy landscape? And what immediate problems does it solve, even as we speak about a highly uncertain world, especially in the Indian context?
Thank you first for inviting me. First, I would like to point out I'm a nuclear fusion scientist. When you talk of nuclear, there are two processes. One is called fission, another is called fusion. The energy we get from sun is from fusion process.
And fusion.
Now, most of the work that is going on right now in the world and India is based on fission. So I will bring both a perspective. Now, right now, whatever the government has planned for Shanti Bill is a landmark bill. It was something pending for a long time, and I'm quite happy and I thank government for taking this forward. And yes, we'll pass the Lok Sabha today, and hopefully it will get passed through. Now, we have planned to get 100 gigawatt by 2047 through nuclear. It's a massive jump from about 12 times. Now, the key issue is going to be the uranium as a fuel for this. Now, India does not have very high quality uranium available, so it is still going to depend on uranium supply from nuclear suppliers group, a few countries which supply this. So this is not ending our dependence on import of nuclear fuel, to say uranium, but it may change from oil to uranium. But there's a way out. The way out is that India has the highest reserve of thorium in the world. Now, efforts are going on to use the thorium, convert to uranium-233, and use that, what is called a stage 3 of India's nuclear plan. But what is being missed out in this is nuclear fusion, role of nuclear fusion. And using nuclear fusion, actually, you can process the thorium and convert uranium-232 much faster way. And that can actually solve and make India independent of dependence on foreign fuel in forms of uranium. So this is a very important point, but not enough focus has been put into this. And also, there's another issue is as we scale up the nuclear waste that comes out of these fission power plants, also is going to be a big issue. There also nuclear fusion is going to play an important role. At the same time, nuclear fusion can also provide energy. Now we are coming very close to that. In 2028, one of the companies in US is expected to provide about 50 megawatts power through fusion. And by 2033 to 2035, expecting several 400 megawatt power plants based on fusion. So we must combine the effort considering both fusion and fission and take the best advantage of the combination of these two. And that is going to solve the problem. If we don't do that, then we are likely to remain dependent on foreign countries still.
Absolutely, Professor Prabhat Ranjan. Now, I'm coming back to you regarding the question of this entire energy transition versus the pace of growth, where India is targeting to become a 5 trillion economy. Can this energy transition, moving from coal to renewables and nuclear, realistically keep pace with the massive power demands of India's projected industrial and data-led growth?
Yeah, so I was heading India's technology think tank in Delhi. We prepared Technology Vision 2035, where we discussed all of these issues. So quality of life of Indian citizens depends on energy. But in addition to the regular requirement for quality of life, there's additional requirement coming from data centers driven by growth of artificial intelligence. And that growth is huge. So we have to not only take care of requirement from citizens' point of view, but also from the point of AI data centers. And this nuclear energy is the only solution that can happen. There are other efforts being made. They're all welcome. But finally, to replace fuel, nuclear is the only option that we can see. And that's why worldwide also this is recognized. And by 2050, it was decided to triple nuclear energy. And if you want to move towards net zero, carbon zero by 2070, this is the only way out. So Shanti Bill is a very good step in this direction. And I think it is going to transform, will bring private sector, but there are going to be certain bottlenecks which we must look towards and solve them, including bringing fusion into the picture.
Absolutely, Professor Ranjan, and it remains to be seen how this is going to sort of reduce India's dependence on foreign, of course, sources of energy. Of course, this is a start that has been made. Of course, it is pending to be approved by the Lok Sabha. But let me come to you, Mr. Vikri. You were making a very important point about not looking inwards, because India has so far maintained a very protectionist approach for some of its sectors, auto sectors, for instance. Agri is another sector, but that's related to livelihoods of several farmers, so that's understandable. But where should India be drawing a line between safeguarding industry and embracing global integration?
Well, of course, it's a very difficult problem to how to maneuver in such a way that domestically you're not hurting the least of those who are dependent upon protections, while at the same time being able to open up. That having been said, it's apparent that India has erred on the side of protectionism for too long. And it needs to be able to take advantage of the freer flow of goods and services, which have been a cornerstone of prosperity for any rapidly growing economy in the world. China has shown that. Opening up is key to having prosperity continue in India. India is not going to be fortress India economically, just as the United States is not going to be fortress USA economically. So it's a difficult problem, but one which can be worked through. And it is absolutely essential to have leadership at this point, rather than just succumbing to the economic winds of the moment in regard to transaction. And if I may, I'd like just to add a word in terms of civil nuclear, because it's very personal to me. From 2005 through 2008, I was secretary of something called the Coalition for Partnership with India on Civil Nuclear Matters. The bill which has gone forward in the Parliament, the Shanti Bill, is absolutely landmark because the great promise of nuclear development was stymied after 2008 by the liability laws and the laws which did not allow for adequate private participation. So this is a very great landmark approach to nuclear, and as a professor has pointed out, nuclear is absolutely key to being able to meet both energy and environmental needs. So I have every expectation that now the Modi government has bitten the bullet and has moved forward, that there will be very, very significant investment from the United States civil nuclear industry as well as around the world. But it won't happen if the approach is what you have indicated on tariffs, and that is to try to use them negatively to accomplish both domestic and international political means. And we can get back to a process which opens up civil nuclear as well as trade, but it will not happen overnight, and it will not happen by succumbing to a transactional view of international economic relations.
Absolutely. Very rightly put across that, there has to be a process where we can get in both energy and, a deal. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, Professor Ranjan, and also Raymond Vickery for, sharing your thoughts on this.
Thanks for having us.
Well, moving on, SEBI overhauls mutual fund regulations to simplify framework and strengthen investor protection. The market regulator replaces stockbrokers regulation 1992 with simplified stockbrokers regulations 2025. Let's listen in first to what SEBI chair Tuhin Kanta Pandey had to say at the press conference. Right after that, my colleague Ankur Mishra is here with all the key takeaways.
Fund regulations is also a comprehensive replacement. It's coming after many years. For nearly 3 decades, it has served as a foundational regulatory architecture, but there have been several amendments, and now we wanted to simplify and consolidate. So, in terms of again, the focus has been on simplification and consolidation, transparency and investor protection. And then we have also taken some important measures in respect of changing the caps, which is on the total expense ratio, bringing clarity on statutory levies, rationalization of brokerage limits, and disclosure of total expense ratio.
Yes, SEBI board has undertaken overhaul of 2 major regulations, including stock brokers regulation as well as mutual fund regulations. In mutual fund regulations, as per the consultation paper, the changes have been made, but most importantly, the BER has been introduced, which is the base expense ratio. Now, this base expense ratio has been introduced to have the transparency in the system, because BER will not include any kind of other charges, including CTT, STT, and the total expense ratio will be sum total of BER and other charges. If you talk about the changes which are there from the consultation paper, one of the change to note for AMCs, whereby for cash transaction, the charge which was supposed to be at 2 bips has been now provided at 6 basis point compared to 12 basis point which was earlier. And similarly, for derivative transactions, it has been kept at a 2 basis point, which was proposed at 1 basis point earlier. Now that leeway has been given as per the submissions which were done by AMCs. Apart from that, the base expense ratio limits has been revised as per AUM, right from 500 crore to more than 50,000 crore. Minimum 10 basis point revision is there as per the slabs. But most importantly, the exit load has been removed of 5%. And SEBI chairman also mentioned these are the expense ratios which are a maximum limit, and brokerages and the houses can offer a lesser expense ratio as per their call. Apart from that, stock brokers regulations overall also happened, whereby the responsibility has been fixed to the exchanges which was there earlier for the stock brokers, and overall the length has been reduced. But most importantly, the board has also held discussion on the committee submissions as far as ethics committee is concerned. No decision has been taken so far because there are certain considerations. The consideration are there whether or not the privacy should come into effect for disclosures, and that may be taken in the next board meeting.
Thanks, Ankur, for those details.